Well, joining us now is Representative Connie Mack, Republican from Florida. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Well, President Obama releases his budget proposal on Monday for fiscal year 2012, calling for a 5-year freeze on domestic spending. The president says that some programs that he cares deeply about will be cut to reduce the deficit by $400 billion over the next decade. Is President Obama's plan the solution for our problems?
No. You cannot. A freeze is not a cut. And what we need is serious cuts to the federal budget. We need to stop spending money on things that we don't need and the American people don't want. We need to get real about our financial crisis that we're in, and it starts with cutting spending. The president's talking about freezing in a bloated spending level in the first place. The only way we're going to get our fiscal house in order is if we have serious cuts to the budget.
Now, no president has been reelected when the nation's unemployment rate has been at 7.1% or higher. How do you see the economy shaping up between now and the election, and do you think President Obama will win re-election?
Well, I think if the president would stop proposing job-killing programs, then the economy would have a shot at coming back. But instead, what we keep getting are different proposals and programs coming out of the White House and the liberals in Washington that suppress job creators. I mean, I did a tour of my district this past week. Went to 10 different locations, met with the chambers of commerces. They all said they need government to get out of the way. And when the small banks talk about wanting to lend, yet they have the FDIC regulator sitting in their offices every day, they're intimidated. So right now the federal government is in this posture of intimidating people instead of letting the free market system work and the entrepreneurial spirit grow.
To another story making headlines, you've called out Representative Joe Kennedy for television commercials that heap praise on Venezuela for providing heating oil to low-income seniors. Kennedy, who is founder and president of the nonprofit Citizens Energy Corporation, thanks Venezuela and Citgo, which we know is owned by the Chavez government. Is this just bad taste, or are you concerned that there's maybe a little bit more to this story?
Well, it's clearly bad taste, and in fact, as I said today, I think it's a disgrace. I mean, Kennedy should know better. He should not allow his name to be associated with a thugocrat in Latin America who is bent on, and I'm talking about Hugo Chávez, bent on destroying the foundation of what America stands for. And for Joe Kennedy to allow his name to be used in that way is a disgrace, and I hope he would stop it. This isn't the first time. 4 years ago he did the same thing. But I think it does raise some other questions. If Joe Kennedy is so concerned about getting heating oil to people's homes, then why is he spending money on ad campaigns? Or even worse, has Chavez said, I'll give you this oil in return for a PR campaign that makes me look good? Either way, it's not good, and Kennedy needs to stop it now.
Do you think there's something here that should be investigated?
I do. I think it's any time that you have a company that's taking oil from a dictator like Hugo Chávez and then turning around running ads praising that dictator, I think the American people want to know what that's all about.
What do you think it's all about here?
I think it's pay to play. I mean, I think that Chavez has said to Joe Kennedy that I'll give you this oil, but in return, these are the ads that I want you to run. And Chavez should not be the mouthpiece, again, for a thugocrat like Hugo Chávez.
He responded with a letter saying in part, quote, if your moral indignation requires that we not accept the discount oil to distribute to our most vulnerable families, then that same high moral standard should require that you not drive your car because it too probably uses gasoline made from Venezuelan oil. He goes on to say that living in Florida maybe diminishes your concern for those who have to give up food and medicine to pay for oil. How do you respond to that?
Joe, you just don't get it. You are running an ad putting praise on a dictator who is destroying the hopes and dreams of not only the people in Venezuela, but in our hemisphere. He is aligning himself with Iran, with Ahmadinejad. There's talk about missiles being placed in Venezuela. There's talk about him supplying uranium to Ahmadinejad for their nuclear weapons program. So Kennedy, I'm sorry you don't get this, but it's not about you trying to give oil to low-income families. It's about you praising Hugo Chávez, a man who is bound and determined to wage a silent war on the United States of America and everything we stand for.
You sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee, so I want to get your thoughts on Egypt. With the resignation of Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, has the Obama administration adequately laid the groundwork for what is next?
I don't think so. I don't think the administration, I think they've been playing catch up in foreign policy from day one. I don't think they understand it, and I'll give you an example. On one hand, the administration calls what happened in Honduras a military coup, when everything that the government in Honduras did was protecting their own constitution. Yet we turn around and give a Millennium Challenge funds to Nicaragua that has invaded another country. They don't get it. I think they've missed the mark in Egypt. America should stand for freedom, and we ought to be standing with those who are fighting for freedom.
Egypt's military promises that Israel will be safe, but with the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood, do you think that's really the case?
It's a concern, and I think all of us need to be very concerned about the direction that Egypt goes. America's posture and position should be to support freedom and to support the advancement of freedom and democracy in Egypt.
Okay. Let's get back to some domestic issues. In light of news that 3 teenagers, 2 of whom were Americans, were shot at the U.S. Mexico border, you plan to hold hearings to implement a counterinsurgency operation there. What does this kind of strategy involve?
It means that enough of tinkering around the edges. There's been talk about the supply side and the demand side of the drug trade. I think what's happening now in Mexico is it's well beyond just the shipment of drugs. We're talking about terrorist organizations who are aligning themselves with the cartels to infiltrate into Mexico to create instability on our own border. So we need to, as I said to my staff, we need to put everything, including the kitchen sink, at this. And the first step is that the president needs to secure our borders, and he needs to do it now. We cannot continue to wait another year to start talking about how we're going to secure our borders. All of the other issues around the border security are fine. We can have those debates, but first thing we should do is make sure that our borders are secure, that terrorists and drugs aren't flowing into the United States, and that cash and guns aren't moving south into Mexico.
Okay,
we have a shared goal with the Mexican people and the Mexican government, and that is to secure our border.
Last question for you real quickly. You have said also that you want to expose the truth behind the administration's failures in the drug war. Is there a cover-up here, perhaps on the part of the Obama administration?
Well, certainly there is an inaction. We have seen with the Merida initiative that the administration has been dragging their feet on fully implementing the Merida initiative with Mexico. It's another sign. The people in Latin America, the governments in Latin America, are saying, what does it mean to be a friend of the United States? So the images they see is happy handshakes with Hugo Chávez, but we won't pass free trade agreements in Colombia and Panama. We talk about a Merida initiative with Mexico, but we don't implement it. We need to get real about our foreign policy and about supporting our allies and our friends. And they're asking a legitimate question in Latin America. What does it mean to be a friend of the United States? We need to reinstill into Latin America and around the world that if you're a country that believes in freedom and democracy, that we will be there for you, we will be friends, and you can count on the United States.
Representative Connie Mack, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.